Hi, everybody. Uh, I'm just getting started here, but I wanted to take a couple minutes just to talk you through this prompt because it's a pretty important one in terms of preparing to write an essay. And I thought if you were absent or if you want to see this more than once, this would be a good way to do it. So in your Write 10 on Tuesday, November 13th, you're going to have this as your writing assignment. It says, the prompt says, beginning an essay. If your essay directions were below, how would you get started? What would you do first? And this is what the prompt says. We all have people we admire. They might be family members or friends. They might be singers, dancers, or actors. They might even be fictional characters. Whom do you admire most? Write an essay that names a person you admire and describes the qualities that make you like the person. So going back to my main task, my task is not to write the essay right now. My task is to figure out how I would start. How would I prepare to write the essay? What would I first do? What would I think about? What would I plan? How would that look? And so I just want to show you kind of like my version of what this would be, and it's going to be different for different people, right? We all have different ways of doing things, but when I go back to the prompt that's given to us, whom do you admire most is the question that I need to answer. Whom do you admire most? So as I plan this essay, I want that question to be at kind of the forefront of my mind. I want that to be the thing that I think about a million times throughout this essay and that I really make sure I answer well. The other part of the directions say, write an essay that names a person you admire and describes the qualities that make you like the person. So I'm gonna, kind of go back here, and this is kind of part 2 of the prompt. Describe the qualities that make you like the person. Okay, so this is how I would start. I would start by first identifying and really understanding and breaking down that prompt. Make sure that I see all parts of the question that's being asked of me. And so I feel like there are 2 things. Whom do you admire most? And describe the qualities that make you like the person. So once I kind of get a clear visual of that, I can then move on to actually answering the question. Whom do I admire most? Okay, so for me, and like I said, this will be different for every person, but I like to do kind of I'm a visual person. So I'm going to put the name of the person here, okay? And then because I have to describe the qualities of that person, I would do that in like 3 separate boxes. Quality number 1. And then this is how I would kind of plan out what I'm going to say. And, you guys are just doing this. You don't have to do this on a computer. It might take you a little bit longer. I do this often, so I'm pretty speedy. So I would kind of set it up like this, okay? So whom do I admire most and describe the qualities that make you like the person? So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and set it up. I would choose my grandpa, Richard Eckert. Okay, he is someone that I greatly admire for lots of reasons. All right, so that is how I would start by next. I would, the second thing that I would do is start with the first question, answer first question, and then visually set up the body paragraphs. That's why I have 3 qualities I'm going to discuss for my grandpa, because there are going to be 5 paragraphs in my essay. I like doing 5-paragraph essays best. I feel like they're the most well-organized essays, and they feel complete and thorough, and those are all good things. So the next thing I need to do is figure out what the qualities of my grandpa are that make him so admirable. And I guess for my grandpa, with my grandpa's story, I would actually talk about um, his determination last, because he's been going through some health um, issues, and he's very determined to conquer them. I would also, and I'm kind of talking about, like, in my head, I'm picturing the essay. I'm picturing me discussing who he was early in his life, who he was as I was a kid growing up, and now kind of who he is later in his life, because he's getting pretty old. So in, like, the middle part of his life, or the middle part of my life growing up, my grandpa is really admirable because he what's the word for it? I want to write about my grandma's death. My grandma died, and he hated being lonely, and he searched for love, and he has found it twice since then. Really sad. It's really sad, his story about two of his wives dying from cancer, and, like, this whole thing. But he never gave up on love, and so I don't know what word I would want to use for that. He kept the faith. He was a romantic. I don't know. I might have to come back to that. Okay. And then the other quality that I would rate that really describes who my grandpa is, both as a young man all the way through who he is right now, is that he is extremely hardworking. He, from a very young man, had a lot of responsibility, and he, I would say, lots of responsibility in younger years, and he was always taking care of everybody, and he hates accepting help. So he'll do it himself, you know. That's kind of who my grandpa is. And so I'm just kind of planning out a few things right now as I'm thinking about what I would do in my essay. I've chosen my person, okay, my answer to the first question, and now I'm thinking about those qualities. What are the qualities that make him admirable? And the fact that he's hardworking, the fact that he never gives up on love, and the fact that he is very determined to, you know, fight for a great life. And so I kind of have, like, my outline already planned in my head. Like, I know that the introduction of my essay, I'm going to be introducing who my grandpa is, and I'm going to have my hook, my background, and my thesis statement. And I know that my thesis statement will be something like, my grandpa Eckert is admirable because he is hardworking, never gives up on love, and stays determined through difficult times. Okay, and so this is my thesis, and I have that planned. And later I can go back and do my hook and my background information. My background information would be a little bit about who my grandpa would be. Like, how would I explain to somebody who Richard Eckert is, right? Richard Eckert is my mom's father. He grew up in Illinois, and he had two siblings. His father died when he was very young. So my grandpa grew up the man of the house. He married my grandma young, and they had 3 children and moved to Minnesota. So that's kind of like a little bit of history about who my grandpa is, a little bit of information about who he is before I go on and tell you how I feel about my grandpa. So that's the background, right? And then I would need my hook. And for me, the hook is a hard part because it requires me to be creative and kind of step away from worrying so much about what my essay is about. So I would actually come back to that later. I would save my hook for kind of the end. So I would go now and I would develop these thoughts a little bit more. I would write out my topic sentence. I would write out my claim. I guess you could say claim and topic sentence are the same thing. And then I would put in my examples. And I would explain, kind of what they mean and why they matter. Why are they so important in making him admirable? Why is hardworking a trait that makes someone admirable? Why is never giving up on love admirable? Why is being determined admirable? And I would explain some of those things. So this kind of helps, I hope this kind of helps you look at how I would wrap my head around an essay and kind of thinking it through before I start writing, because sometimes you just need to plan it out. This would be a really easy thing to do, like on a scratch piece of paper. You can just, do something like this, where you have the circles with the lines and just kind of plan out your thinking before you start. So that's what I suggest to get an essay started, and thanks for watching.